Welcome to the In Summary podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Dozier.
Yeah, I'm your other host, Dallas Lansanese.
Happy Friday for us, maybe for you. Kind of a lower energy one.
Yeah, good morning, In Summary podcast. It's funnier when it's not the morning. See, and I'm always a fan of just rolling with everything that we say and just see how it lands for people. But enough of that. Nathan,
Yeah,
how are you?
I'm doing all right. I took a personality quiz earlier today.
Okay.
It's a personality quiz based on your preferences
Personality.
with competitive Pokemon.
Okay.
And it's basically like separating you kind of into houses, and it has three. And I got split right down like 33% for all three of them.
Good.
So it bummed me out, man. It's like I want to feel like this thing sees me for more than just a jack of all trades. Lo and behold, it says, by the way, you're a jack of all trades. I just want to know what my specialties are, not my averageness.
What were like the questions like?
It was like, what's your earliest memory, or which one of these is the earliest associated memory with Pokemon? Where
Okay.
was the most fun place to play it? Um, they put three Pokeballs in front of you. Do you pick the Master Ball, the Ultra Ball, the Pokeball? And it's like all this other stuff. And it's
Okay.
just, dude, like, thanks for making me feel like none of my questions mattered.
So, what Pokeball did you choose then?
I chose the Master Ball because I'm a degenerate. Like I want to win, man.
I will say, if you were to ask me that question, because I
Yeah,
know you said Master Ball, Degenerate, Strong Stuff. You said there was an Ultra Ball in there.
yeah.
I just like how that one looks.
Ultra Ball is pretty cool, actually. I'm a
Yeah,
big fan of Ultra Ball.
yeah. I mess with that heavy.
I'm sending
Um,
you the link.
oh, I that's exciting. I will do that when I have the opportunity to. Yes, that's good.
Heck yeah.
um but yeah, I can't
How are you
believe
doing?
that. Yeah, I can't believe it's already June. But basically, like, it's almost June. By the time this gets posted, it will be June. The
Yeah.
fact that we're there already is wild to me. Because it's the age-old statement. Wow, this year is we're already through it, basically, which is so crazy how time just keeps going. I don't know. I'm really vibing right now with summer. Once summer started, that first Monday of the summer semester, I said, you know what I should start doing again? Get into the gym. And so I've been going to the gym every morning at 5:30 when it opens, because I don't have energy after work to go. And so I was like, it's either before work or never. And especially like during the school year, with like, if I'm going to continue this during the school year, with like late night commitments throughout the week, like I might not just have the time if I do after work workouts. And so like fitting into my schedule in the morning, that's a vibe. Something that's I didn't think I'd ever say in my life, is, wow, it's so unfortunate that this weekend the gym's closed because of Memorial Day. I've never had to look at gym hours. I just thought gym open because people like to work out. And so
Um, Gym
I've
open because people like gym.
yeah, exactly. And whose gym? I haven't met him yet. I've only been doing cardio because every summer I go to Colorado to hang out with a friend of mine that lives there. And I love to hike, but I have asthma and it's like a mile in the sky into the so
Yeah.
like it's kind of hard to do that when you are out of shape and have asthma to hike. So I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just going to build my stamina up because I want to hike at least one mountain when I'm in Colorado this summer. And so that's the plan. I've just been doing cardio. My plan is at least the first 30 days of cardio is what I'll do. And then maybe after that, if I finally do some research on some exercises other than walking on a treadmill, that's what I'll do. But that's
Um,
kind of my life right now is that
I
And
did a quick Google search for you. There is no cure for asthma. So
well, it's and what's funny about that is you can grow out of it. You can just grow out of asthma. And I think that's ridiculous because like me and my brother both had asthma when we were
yeah,
kids. You know what? He's doing what he can to right the wrongs of the past. But if either of us were to get the opportunity to grow out of asthma, I think I deserved it. I don't think he deserved it. And so I, it's unfortunate, but it's funny because I have asthma. I don't have it like it doesn't like kick in super often anymore like it used to. But I still sometimes will get like some exercise induced asthma where I'm like, oh shit, I need to stop being active right now because breathing. But I don't even have like at this point, I don't even have like an emergency like inhaler. You'd think I would and just have it with me in case. I don't. I might go and find one. Just find one. But
like just you're having an asthma attack in the middle of the street, and you're just like ruffling through people's pockets.
yeah.
Like someone's got to. Did someone drop one? You start patting the ground like Velma.
I can't seem to find my inhaler. Uh, but enough of that. I
Yeah.
wanted to I have some would you rather questions, Nathan.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to start there. Uh I don't remember how many. I could count. I'm not going to. I'm just going to go through them. I'm going to ask you, let you talk about it however long you'd like, give your explanations of what or why
I want to
you're
hear yours
picking.
too, for the
Yeah,
record.
and then I'll jump in after and I will also give my thoughts. Some of these, I don't know, kind of lame. Some of these I think pretty interesting to think about. So, first one I got for you is would you rather start a new position at the beginning of the academic year? So that means like right when it starts the academic year, no like
Mhm.
prep in the summer, you're starting day one academic year.
Okay.
Or jump into a new position mid-semester.
Oh, you're asking questions I've never thought about in my life because I've never done either.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mid semester.
Why?
Because beginning of the academic year means that if I stay in residential life, then I am jumping in like right at opening or right after it. And that sounds like the worst thing. I don't think I'd want to do that.
I think in this scenario, in this world, um I'd much rather I'm with you. I'd much rather jump in to the new position mid-semester because again, if you are jumping in right at the beginning of the academic year, you're right. Like you're jumping in right at opening, but with no like it's basically your day one was the day before opening. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, and then just do it. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Where's my training, my support, my assistance? I have to do this, and people are gonna ask me questions. I'm gonna have to know things. Whoa.
Yeah. I think
But
I'd also, in general, I'd rather not my first day see people at their absolute worst
yeah.
because openings and closings, the worst times to meet people.
I
You
agree.
should
Those
not be
parents
making
that come to my
connections.
office. Ooh,
Yeah.
the walls aren't painted to my liking. Okay, chill. But no, that mid-semester jump in, I feel like I feel like depending on the department, there's grace in either situation, obviously.
Mhm.
But I feel like that jumping in mid-semester, there's a much more grace from a lot more people involved.
Oh, yeah. That's
So
usually when everyone's kind of chill. Everyone's calm. Mid semester, we're already in the groove.
yeah. So that's how I'm feeling there.
That's an
Um,
easy one.
The next one I have for you is would you rather supervise a staff of 8 by yourself or supervise a staff of 20 with like the assistance of like another staff member, maybe a grad student or something like that?
They're strange numbers.
Yeah. No particular reason I picked the specific numbers I did, but I just did. So
That's fair. I think I'd rather. I think I'd rather supervise 20 with another staff member
interesting. Why?
because, and this is just because of the time of year you're asking this, but in the middle of closing, if I was had a grad with me,
Yeah.
we can still do the final checks of rooms and things like that
Uh-huh.
way faster. And with a staff of 20, you get way more stuff just done quickly. a staff of 8 might be way easier to manage just by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But then when it comes to like the high influx of work, those things get done way more slowly.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear that. I think my initial thought on this when I made the question was I'd rather do the staff of 8 by myself.
Yeah.
Um, just because like I'm very relational and I like to like build like that rapport with my people that I'm supervising. And selfishly, I feel like if there's another person that's technically like a co-supervisor of mine, what if they like them more? What if they go to them with things and not me? Selfishly, that's selfishly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I will say as I've had the time to think about this because I've had these in front of me for a while. I think the staff of 20 with like a co-supervisor, some sort of assistance would be one, it would be different than I've ever experienced before. Like I just haven't had that
Mhm.
experience. Two, I think it would be really fun. Um, just one, the larger staff. I'm just like imagining like staff meetings and stuff.
Mhm.
Probably pretty fun trying to uh like rile them all in. Not rile them down, not rile them up. You know what I mean? Round them
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, round them
Yeah.
up.
Rein them in. Rein them
Yeah,
in.
yeah, rein them in. Yeehaw. And so and also I've never, that's a lie, in a traditional sense I've never really supervised a grad assistant that would like was directly below me. I supervised a grad that was working in another building and that had his
Mhm.
own staff and I was like the supervisor, so it was a weird, that was a weird dynamic. But traditionally I've never had like a grad right below me working next to me in the community, same staff, all that. So I think that's just a new experience for me that I think
I've
would be
actually
fun.
done both of those. That's
Okay.
why I had to think so hard for a second.
Yeah.
Because the first, like with a staff of around 8 just by myself, went well, went smoothly, nothing wrong there. The next year I moved to a staff, not of 20, of 12, where I had a co-supervisor. And they did like my co-supervisor way more than me. And it's not that like really it just ended up with one of the staff members that I had was also an RA with me.
Yeah.
And he didn't like me as an RA.
Oh, yeah.
So it immediately was just yeah, he doesn't know how to do this job. He's not good at it. And it's like, well, that might be true, but you haven't given me enough chances to show you that I can't do this job. That's not fair.
Exactly. Let's let me prove my inability to do stuff.
Right. But there was even a situation where at the desk, in front of many staff members, that same staff, this is the most example I can give of it because it's just the peak of when I had to pull him in my office and say, hey, man, what's up?
Yeah.
But he was talking about all of the community directors, and he's like, "Yeah, this one's the goat, this one's peak, um, and this one's awesome too." And then just didn't mention my name at all. And it's like, you're kind of like, do you understand that? Like, no one's like, "Oh my god, this guy's so funny," and like, no one's thinking that. They're thinking, "Wow, this guy sucks." Like, why are you putting us in the situation where you're talking smack about our boss right here in front of him? Like, that's weird. No one liked that. And everyone just kind of was super uncomfortable the whole year
Yeah.
because he wasn't doing anything fireable. He was just being super disrespectful, but doing everything right in his job. And it's like, come on, man. I just need a little bit of talking less. That's all I need from you.
Man. And those without knowing the individual, just that type of person, like being like rude but doing good in their job, that's I feel like true evil. If you look at
Yeah.
like D&D and like the alignments,
Yeah.
that's true evil.
Yep.
Because
Chaotic
like
evil.
they're doing what they need to do to stay in the position and to just be rude to everyone in said position.
Actually, yeah, it's lawful evil. I think lawful evil is one of the worst alignments. It's like, I'm following the rules. You suck. It's
Yeah.
like, you have a freedom of speech, but that doesn't mean you should use it that way.
Oh man, it's a world and we live in it.
We
But the
do.
next the next would you rather question I got for you is would you rather work solely with freshman students or work solely with upperclassmen?
Freshman every time. Oh, wow. Hold on. I said it and then immediately was like,
Ooh,
well,
yeah, I don't know.
I think my answer stays the same, but it's not as confident.
Okay, okay.
um, I say freshman students because freshman students are just, I don't know, like they're more excited to be involved and yeah, there's a lot more like that they have to learn and things they have to teach, but also one of it's more engaged, and returning students kind of have their flow. They know what they're doing. Getting them involved in things is hard. It's
Yes.
not impossible, but it's just challenging.
Hmm.
Really just connecting with them too, because usually upperclassmen students kind of like to do their own thing. But yeah, I think freshmen every time, even though you probably get more like conduct and things like that.
Yeah, I've only had the experience working with upperclassmen. I've never actually
Oh,
been in a community where I've had it was like predominantly freshmen.
yeah.
Even in grad school, like it just wasn't where I was placed. And then currently as a professional, I'm still there. And like I agree with everything you said. It is there it brings its different challenges.
It does.
I like that you brought up conduct because you're right. I do get significantly less conduct than my peers, uh, which is very nice. We were doing some looking at numbers at the end of the academic year of like caseloads and stuff. I think what I remember is like I had like maybe 21 conduct meetings scheduled for the
Mm-hmm.
entire academic year, just 21. And
Really? How many
yeah,
students are in your building?
well, in my community, we can hold up to 332. So I only had, and it's not even like I'm meeting with my people. Like we try, like I think I only had one case out of all the cases I was assigned that actually were my residents. The rest were from other buildings. And so I definitely agree with the whole I get less conduct. I don't know. I'm very into like student leadership and I love Hall Gov and I love stuff like that. And so like it's when I have that energy of wanting people to get involved in that, and then it's like pulling teeth with my people trying to for people to do that. That's what I
How
like. Oh, it's so hard. Did you do math? Did you do the math on that? What did you do the math on?
yeah, I am doing math. How many cases do you guys get in a year?
Well, um, I think the number this past year, and again, this isn't cases, this is individuals that were put through the conduct process. So obviously, like a case might have like 7 people, but I had 21
Yeah.
individuals I met with. I think total across campus, we had a little over 700 total individuals who went through conduct this past year.
Dude.
And so now, if you do the math on that, I only met with 21 of them. Well, and I didn't even meet with all 21 because no shows. And so, like,
We in our academic year had 3,630.
that's so crazy. How many students do you have on campus?
Actually, I know how many we had on campus. We had 1,500.
Yeah, because I was gonna say we're about double that on campus here at NDSU, and so like we have
You
a yeah.
you're
What's
like
up?
3,000 people on campus
Yeah, and we met with about
in less
700 of
than
them.
half the conduct.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
I was gonna say, do you guys just not put fluoride in your water?
All right. We're gonna hop into the next would you rather question.
Oh, you don't want me to spread conspiracy? That's
We
not good
can.
enough for you.
I don't. Hey, you're the editor now, so feel free to keep whatever you want. So like, fluoride. Next, would you rather drink what? No, I'm just joking. Would you rather work at a public or a private university?
I've never worked at a private.
I agree. I never have either.
I don't know the nuance of the difference. I should because I have a degree in higher education, but I think I just forgot because it's never been relevant.
So I'm hearing you want to work in private then, actually. No.
Um, I think I'd still rather work at a public
Yeah.
university,
Yeah.
but my reason is because I'm not religious. And I have a feeling that most private institutions are private because of religious reasons.
Yeah, I have seen that because I when I was applying to my first professional job, I was applying everywhere and I applied to a few privates. And I feel like though it wasn't like a super commonality, I definitely saw that with a few of them. I was like, interesting. Um
I feel
but
like they also aren't. I'm used to the rules of a public institution, and I feel like
yeah.
there's a lot of gray area when you become private.
Yeah, and there's I have not a lot of thought, but some thought like later when we get into some other topics we want to talk about. I just without knowing, like you said, the nuances of because each one runs as its own, basically, because that's
Yeah.
what you can do. Now there's not to get too much into it, there's like laws and stuff that for some states will direct how private universities can actually function,
Mhm.
but the majority of can function however they want because they funded themselves. But
Yeah.
regardless, enough about that right now. Um, would you rather work in a department that has been established for a while or in a department that is brand new?
Probably brand new. I
Okay.
When it comes to working in a department that's you'll probably honestly, there's very little ever time to work in a brand new department. Most departments are established, they all make new jobs that often in higher ed. But when it comes to creating a department or creating the like roles in a department, uh, I think you get more experimentation with what works and what doesn't. And it feels like there's a lot more leeway, give, and flexibility when it comes to not only the people who you're working with, but the people who work for you and the people who you work for, because they all have the understanding that we're all figuring it out. When things are already established, I there's a timeline in everyone's head of how long it should take you to be on board with what they're doing. And if you're not, then that's when people get frustrated.
Yeah, I was running through these a little bit and thinking of some prior thoughts that I had for each of these would you rather's like the other night. And this one for some reason I could only think of the I can only think of the negatives for each.
Yeah.
And so, but I can expand now because I've been giving it a little bit more thought as you've been talking.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I think I would rather work in an established apartment. I'll start there. I'd rather work in an established apartment. Um, though in a new department and with new initiatives and new energy and new people, like you don't really have to follow like the quote unquote politics of the process, and you can
Yeah.
probably expedite things to make changes pretty quickly. Now you work in an established department and it's like there's hoops to jump through and like um you have to like it feels like you have to if you really want to make like a big change, you have to come with like evidence and data of why the change makes sense
Hmm.
rather than just being like I think this can work, this is like a little bit of why, but like you have to come with more extensive like I don't want to say research but like just information of how things can actually work if you want change to take place.
Yeah, it
um
does feel like a simplified version of the question is, do you prefer structure?
and and it's crazy because in my personal life no, but professionally please I need it.
I'm the
uh
opposite.
Really.
I like my personal life to have a little bit of structure, kind of a like, this is what I'm going to do this day. And then in work, I just like freedom and flexibility, man. Like, this is what you need to get done. How it gets done is kind of up to you.
And I dig that. I dig that. Where am I on my list? Okay. Would you rather close a building you've never worked in before or open a building you've never worked in before?
Dog,
So you're thrown into opening or closing and you got to do it.
I got to do one.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna never worked in do, but can I have any knowledge of it, or is it just a no knowledge either way,
Um,
or knowledge as you go?
I think let's think of it like this. You maybe you have some sort of knowledge of how openings and closings work from like a different institution, but you've just been thrown in to this new institution. You have no idea how their processes work, and you've been asked to, hey, it's closing day or it's opening day. You got to do it.
I'd rather open the building because I think it'll cost them less money.
What do you mean? Like, explain that.
Because if I mess everything up on opening, I go, oh no, it won't cost them less money because if people leave because they're angry. But I think I can open a building to the extent where residents won't storm off angry, at least, even if I have no knowledge. So we
Okay.
won't lose money there. If we close a building, and I don't know how they do their charging or anything with it,
Good
I
point.
think we'll lose a lot of money. And I'm not like everyone in their job is going to cost their business money. But yeah, so yeah, I think I'd rather open a building.
I I hear that, and I like the thoughts that you brought up. Um, I just think, and I didn't even think about like the money and like
Mm-hmm.
the angriness of people potentially or whatever. I was thinking like, what's gonna be easier for me to get through? Because both would suck.
Yeah,
Um, and so I think in my head, closing's easier to get through because at the end of the day, you just need them to give back their keys and get the hell out of the building.
that's true.
And like, there's, I guess, there's like logistical things that you need to figure out throughout that process. But at the end of the day, if someone, you just need the keys back and they need to leave. And like, especially if your building's not like going straight into like summer activity and you have time to like clean it with like your custodial staff and all that,
Mm-hmm.
like it just seems easier to me to be like, hey, send an email out real quick the day of closing, be like, okay, everyone's got to go, pull the fire alarm and dump the building, get people out.
That would work.
Yeah. I also like it leads into not to cut you off, but it leads into like a previous would you rather where I was talking about like with opening, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
people are going to expect me to like know the thing and parents are going to be there like asking me the thing and I'm like I don't know the thing. I just got dropped into this new reality. And so like I'd rather just close and not have the issues.
My real problem, honestly, is the fact that I think you when you think of these questions, you think of like, okay, what's going to cause me the least amount of headache?
Yeah.
And I'm telling myself, what's going to burden my soul in the long run the least? Which one is going to make it so I don't constantly think people think I can't do my job?
And that's real. That
I
part
just,
actually.
I just hate disappointing people, man. That's all it is. Like if I can take the path that will give me nothing but grief and strife, but disappoint people less, I'm probably gonna take that one.
Man, and that sounds like you work in higher ed, if you ask me. Uh, you
How'd
don't
you
want
know?
to. The next would you rather question I got. I have
Shoot.
like six more if you're curious, so we still
Yeah.
got some. So this next one is: would you rather work in an on-campus living provided position? Not like it doesn't have to be a hall director. It's just a position that
Hmm.
you're working on campus, and they offer you housing on campus. Could be
Okay.
in the building you work in, could be whatever. Or you commute to work.
Huh.
Pros and cons to both.
I told you I live on campus still, right?
Probably I forgot though.
That's fair. Yeah. So I do live on campus still.
That's
I
nice.
have in my professional career never not lived on campus.
That's nice.
And then right when I got the job where I didn't need to live on campus, well, me and my wife got married and she lives on campus. So,
Yes, yes, I remember this now. Yes.
yep. So, as of right now, like I don't have a live on, I might as well have a live on position now. And actually, it has its benefits because having someone who is at another level up always around, like, it's a good security blanket on
Mm-hmm.
the absolute just in case a building blows up.
Yeah, kaboom.
I'd rather commute to work, and the only reason I enjoy having a place that's paid for and I appreciate it. I will always be grateful for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know eventually I have to move off campus. The only reason is because I feel guilty practicing anything music when I have neighbors.
Yeah, okay.
That's the only thing that ever like makes me not happy to live on campus.
Well, that makes sense. I do feel bad when I'm like screaming at my game and I'm like, ooh, someone lives
Yeah,
above me.
yeah, right. And it's like above me, they probably can't hear me. But well, I have across the hallway neighbors, and those are the ones I'm always concerned about because I don't have anyone next to the room that I'm working on music anyway. But it's just that one person. It's like, can you just not live here?
Live somewhere else. Uh,
Right.
but no, I think I'm in the boat of I'd want an on-campus living provided position. One, I don't know any other way of life. This is my ninth year now living on campus in some
Hmm.
capacity. And so I just don't know the other way of life. Two, the housing market. Three, like I do like the fact that my commute is like 30 seconds if I walk quick enough across my courtyard. And
Yeah.
so that's pretty nice. Um, some downsides though, like I just like having okay. Sorry, my cat ran away in the background.
Yes.
Um, but no, some downsides is like residents know you live there. And like I hate that. I try my hardest to like not let residents catch on that I live in the building.
Yeah.
Because but like obviously they'll catch on. What's nice is the building that I'm currently in, I have in unit laundry. So like they don't see me doing laundry and stuff. But like when I want a gremlin and get DoorDash at night, and then they also see me crawling out of my apartment, like
Yeah.
and that sucks. And then they have questions, or they're just looking at me, and I'm like, both suck. Don't talk to me, but also don't look at me. Pretend like you didn't see me. It's Saturday night. Like, leave me
Whenever
alone.
I'm driving and I drive by someone and they stare at my car, I'm like, you're an adult. You know not to look at people. Like, you're not 12, you're not 6, you're 20 something.
like, don't look at me, don't talk to me, and don't point at me.
Oh,
That's three
pointing,
things.
big oopsie. I don't remember the last person that pointed at me, but they did, and I was like, did your
Hmm.
mom raise you?
No.
Not the correct question to ask, but
Uh, yeah, do you point at your mother with that finger? All right. So we're gonna we're gonna move on.
yeah,
Would you rather work 4 10-hour shifts and have a 3-day weekend each week, or 5 8-hour shifts with a 2-day weekend? So typical work
four
week.
10-hour shifts every single time. There
Okay.
is nothing in my ability. I talked about this yesterday with someone of I am such a big advocate for a 4-day work week for every place under the sun. And my biggest reason is we already don't work as much as the 40 hours that we are slotted for. So if we're not going to, at least condense it into a like one less day. So we always have a 3-day weekend. And a 3-day weekend actually gives you time to like accomplish things as a person.
Yep.
And yeah, you have a little bit less time of every single day of the week besides those 3 days. But you know what? The people who are like, well, I have another job. Well, now you have 3 days that you can work that job, and you can be fully part time if you work an 8, 8, and 4. So it's a financial thing, it's a benefit.
Yeah, I would love to work 4 days if those 4 days were still just 8-hour days and not 10 hours. um,
Yeah, it's fair.
yeah, I like I'm doing so I have a lot of like vacation time that I've been for some reason saving up. It's because I don't go on trips, but like whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
so this summer I'm taking the majority of Fridays off. And so the majority of my weekends this summer will be 3-day weekends. Not this week. Well, I mean, this weekend is still a 3-day weekend because of Memorial Day, but not the Friday off because one, today's Friday, I'm working, but two, I'm on call. So I'm not taking the Fridays off that I'm on call for that week.
Fair.
But I love a good 3-day weekend. I really do. I just if I was told that yes, my work is switching from 5 8 to 4 10, like I don't know, like it would. I feel like the each day in the moment would just feel so long to me,
Mm-hmm.
and like it's just I know it's just an extra 2 hours each day. I already hit a wall at like 1:30 p.m. most days. After lunch, the lunch sets in, and I'm like, I don't want to. I'm tired. And so
Yeah.
now the fact that like I hit that wall at 1:30 and then I still have like 6 hours, like ooh, I wouldn't be a vibe personally for me, but I think it would be nice at some point if we realize that 40 hours in a week to for most weeks to do job isn't even like you're giving us too. I'm just sitting around, not all the time, but there are times where I'm just like, I don't need this much time to do what you
Yeah.
need me to do this week. So stop requiring me. Still pay me that much, but don't require me to like be around just sitting around.
I just don't like that a chunk of work. If it was just salary work is task based, in my opinion. But it got shifted from being task based and it needs to get done in this amount of time to you always need to be here and this is what you need to do. And that's fine, whatever. I don't know financial economics enough to like, I know that's probably just redundant, whatever. But I don't know anything enough about finances to say whether or not that's the benefit or whatever, or what that does for office culture. But what I do know is that if you paid me the same amount of money and honestly gave me 20 hours a week, you'd still get the same stuff done.
Yeah.
Like, I hate to say it, I don't think I've had ever a job in my life besides when I worked at Pizza Hut. That's different. Any
Right.
food service job, unfortunately, you that the time it takes is just the time it takes because it's food. But like any other job that I've had in life, if you told me I had to do it in half the time, I could have done it. If you told me I had to do it in the quarter of the time,
No.
I maybe could have done it for more money.
Yeah, and maybe more money, but it would also be a little bit less good, you know.
Good,
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Like it would be a lower quality, but
yeah, that's the
I
phrase.
don't think I've ever had a job that was demanding the entire time that I was on the clock. Just isn't the case. And it's so not efficient with just our human lifespan because like out of my entire week, not counting the weekends, not the tails, the week beginning weekend because we call Sunday a weekend and it's not. But anyway, Monday through Friday. If you're telling me that 40 of those hours have to be at work and I'm only using 20 of them, so 20 hours are spent doing literally nothing
Yep.
or Googling stuff or doing
Crossword.
random research, which
Yeah.
is fun. I like doing that. That's why I'm not going to complain too hard about it. That's a third of my life.
Yeah.
And a third of it has to be spent sleeping.
Isn't that wild?
So you're only giving me a third back.
Yeah.
Not a fan.
The math doesn't math, but
Doesn't math enough.
and I could go into that for a while, but I don't want to, and I do have some other things.
No,
Yeah.
we would be here all day if we were talking
Yes.
about how much we value our actual life.
But yeah, so the next would you rather question though, is would you rather eat pancakes or eat waffles?
Oh, pancakes. There is
Okay.
never a time that I will ever take waffles over pancakes.
That's very interesting. Why?
Because pancakes are fluffy. Pancakes are better with peanut butter. Pancakes have
Interesting.
nice varieties of things you can put in them, and it's still this nice fluffy cake consistency. And waffles are hard Lego brick, like discs that you can play hockey with, that everyone's like, oh, they're so much better. They're not better. They're not soft and happy. They are rigid, and all they do is tell you every single day that you were not skilled enough to make a nice fluffy pancake, so you had to put it in a crappy iron and flip it and then do something else because you couldn't take the time to be mindful and make a nice breakfast. That's why I don't like waffles.
That's so wild. I love pancakes, but like if
Okay,
I
good. I was gonna say because we were about to have an argument.
no, and it's funny because you didn't let me finish. But in this, would you rather? If I had to choose, I can only have pancakes for the rest of my life when I'm eating that kind of food or waffles. I would choose waffles. I'll explain. Because after your little explanation, I think I have to defend waffles here a little bit. And this wasn't just for the sake of uh devil's advocate. I was going to choose waffles regardless of what you said.
Okay.
Um, one, I don't know what waffles you are having that are hard bricks, because I be having fluffy waffles. Um, I just like the ability of waffles to hold things more like better. So like syrup with like pancake, if you put it just on the top, not in like the middle of the stack kind of thing, it kind of just like eventually will slide off and you have to like dip in and stuff. With a waffle, there's like little cube areas that you can like put, you can hold things in there. That's awesome. Same with like chocolate chips. If you got some toppings, they can sprinkle in. Yes, you can cook a chocolate chip into a pancake, whatever. But like you, there's like these little hands for waffles, and I just love it. And also me, the older I get, I'm not really that old, but the older I get, the less messy I want my meals to be when possible. And I feel like a waffle is just less messy. It's just less messy.
Can I ask you a follow-up question that
Yes.
sounds accusatory because it is?
No, sure.
With that same logic, do you prefer lakes or waterfalls?
That's such an interesting question. Because I think waterfalls are better to look at. I'd rather pick a waterfall.
And that's exactly why I like pancakes. You get a nice cascade of syrup. They it Waterfalls aren't clean, but they're beautiful. And that's the point. It's about the whole composition. Waffles are the community of houses that are all built the exact same because it's efficient, while I'm the one who's going to buy the house that's like four times bigger than it needs to be. It's oblong shaped. Each room is painted different, but it has character and it's your house. That's why I like pancakes. Pancakes make creative people.
I still I love your argument, and
Yeah.
I agree with the same as you're saying. I would still pick waffles in this situation. I'm not folding.
Yeah.
But I've never actually outwardly heard myself or remember myself thinking like, oh, I could really go for a waffle right now. But
Yeah.
sometimes I'll be like, ooh, a chocolate chip pancake sounds amazing right now. So
Yeah.
it is wild. I'm still picking waffles. But like I love Denny's chocolate chip pancakes. Not a sponsor. If Denny's wants to sponsor UMR, and we could have them at like the conference, oh my god, I would eat 17. Would you rather shop at Target or Walmart?
Walmart.
I agree. I agree. Good answer.
I'm sorry for all the viewers out there who say, "Oh, Walmart's a corporation, Target's at least a little more homegrown." It's still a corporation, giant
Yes.
corporation, but not as mega corporation as Walmart. Totally agree. Um, but Walmart has what I want. Target might,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. That's the only thing. Um, for those Stardew Valley people who are like, "Oh, well, you should go homegrown." Sorry, I pick Jojamart every single time,
No, you
and guess,
don't.
huh?
No, you don't.
I want to, but I
Okay.
play in a group and they won't let me.
Oh my
But
god, that's wild.
I play in. I'm the guy who goes into the dungeons and goes into the mines. And the second that I cleared that dungeon, I was like, "We need to go to Joja Mart so I can buy the next thing." And they're like, "No, you don't. You're doing the community center." And I did that for 2 months. That was the worst thing. I hated that. And guess what? I would have picked Joja Mart every single time. Same with Walmart.
Fair enough. I've never heard the Walmart and Jojo Mart comparison, which is funny because like that's probably what it's based off of.
That's
Uh,
100% what it is. I cannot
well,
believe that
I've
didn't
never
connect.
heard of that. Regardless, I agree. Walmart, I like. I know where the things are in Walmart that I want. They have my sandwiches that I like. Um, their chicken tenders, amazing. And I feel like I can just stroll into a Walmart looking however I look, and in Target, I feel like I gotta wear like pants. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. My feeling with Walmart is that if I wanted to go in and then halfway through shopping, I was like, I want to buy a Beyblade. They'd have a Beyblade.
Yeah, they would.
Yep. And guess what? Target might have a Beyblade. And I'm not here for that. I'm not here for uncertainty. I go into a store expecting a thing and I want that thing.
Fair enough. And that's why I'd rather shop at Walmart than Target. Um, the last would you rather the last would you rather I have for you is would you rather go to the UMR annual conference or miss out on all the fun?
Oh, there's there's lots of reasons to go to the UMR annual conference, and I'd love to. And I think that that sounds like probably the best use of that time. Missing out on fun is on brand for me, but I think in this particular question, I think I'd rather have all the fun and excitement and joy of going to the UMR annual conference personally.
Yeah, and thank you for asking. The UMR annual conference is Wednesday, October 30th to Friday, November 1st. And so I'm going to be there. Nathan's going to be there. We're going to be having a good time going to sessions, probably running a table or two, honestly, if you're asking me now. So it's going to be a good time. I love a good conference. So yeah, I agree. I would love to go to the UMR annual conference over missing out on all the fun.
And honestly, the only thing that's better than going to the UMR annual conference is writing down the date now so you can talk to your supervisor now instead of springing it on them when it gets close.
Yeah, I agree. because if you just sprung that on, bro, that's a lot of money and time away from and travel probably. But
You should
we,
probably ask today.
yeah, we can't wait to see you all there.
Yes,
Uh, so
we can record a podcast episode there, and you can be on it.
you could maybe that's a session, a live podcast.
But we totally could actually.
We could low key do that.
We
Um,
actually should. We should
yeah,
actually submit that like soon.
yeah, I think that'd be really interesting. But
Yeah,
regardless, thank you, Nathan, for humoring me and participating in the Would You Rather segment that I had
that was a great
for
time.
this podcast. Yes, don't get used to it. I don't know if I could think of more.
Oh,
So
I can double down. Don't
hell
worry.
yeah, hell yeah. So I want to, I guess, hop right into kind of the main stuff that we were going to talk about, which I don't think we actually ever said this originally, but that's fine. The main topics that we have for today are like protests on college campuses, some higher ed law, some just like student empowerment in general, stuff like that, kind of where we go from there. So I took some time and I looked into some things. And I'm going to start with just like specifically like protests and stuff. Okay. Um, I didn't look into because I know it's been a very hot button topic right now going on because of everything going on like overseas and stuff. And people wanting to voice their opinions on like what's going on with Israel and like Pakistan and all that.
Hmm.
And I know there's been like issues and situations happening recently, and that's why Nathan and I wanted to talk about this. But I just looked at things like in general. I wasn't looking at like recent stuff. I looked at things just in general. I'm going to like maybe I'm leaking law into it a little bit, but like I'm thinking like First Amendment. Okay, we have these documents that rule the way our country's supposed to run, which is wild to think about, but they're there. And so public institutions, because of how they are funded and operated, et cetera, are protected by First Amendment rights and all that. If protests are done in the public forum spaces that these public institutions like deem as areas that you can protest. Now,
Hmm.
if you were to start going to places where you're not supposed to be and you're disrupting the flow of like just the things going on, like the activities and stuff, like you can get in trouble then with law and all that. That's not protected. To be a disruption, it's not protected under the First Amendment. But overall, these public institutions, whether it's on a website or in their like union where you can talk to someone, there should be access to like the locations on your campus where you can rightfully protest, as well as long as you are working with like PD to make sure like things are in order and like again you're not disrupting things that might already be in place, yada yada yada, et cetera, et cetera. I know each public institution is different a little bit with their logistics. Now, speaking of private on the other side, other side, so private institutions, from what I've gathered, work similarly to like private employers, where they're not technically bound by the First Amendment in a lot of scenarios. Um, there have been, and I can't name, I don't know, but there are some private institutions that have adopted some sort of like First Amendment type policies to allow people to protest, and again like similar to public institutions in these public forum places, um or they're forced by their state laws. I know California, from what I was looking at, is one of the states that regardless if you're private or public, your institution needs to follow the First Amendment, however that looks on your campus, kind of thing. So a lot of thoughts. I was getting into the weeds of things and I started getting confused a little bit. And so I stopped. I took myself out of the weeds. But that's some of my initial thoughts. If you want to expand, have things, Nathan, on your
Dude, I
end.
went way too far in the weeds.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
No, I'm pretty sure I'm a weed now.
Okay, good. Pluck you.
Yeah, like, dude. I'm not going to talk about the nuance of the whole situation because it's kind of wild. It's wild how much media controls, because I don't know how many media outlets I read 3 or 4 articles on where it was reported that the current protests are anti-Semitic and are against Jewish students and are against all this other stuff, because that is, it's such a hard thing to say, because are these protests anti-Jewish? No. Are these protests against some people who are Jewish? Yes, but not have anything to do with their Judaism. But it's the problem really at this point of the the media that is basically run by, if it's not run by the government, it's funded by the government. If it's not funded by the government or run by the government, then it's influenced by the government. They're basically in this weird bind where they have to do what's probably the most beneficial for the government than it does representing this properly. So then there's a lot of different outlets that say that that's what these are. Um, are they? I'm not there. I don't know. But what I do know is that media has historically, across the board, I'm not sure if there has been a single large scale protest that wasn't negatively construed in the media. I think every single one of them has been. Um, and the real problem with that is the fact that, like, we can't, there's nothing that can be done about that besides independent media, independent news sources. And those don't pay, so people don't really commit to those. Um, I was reading about I believe Texas A&M, a lot of that. I was reading about, mostly actually, I was reading too much about Texas. That's actually my biggest mistake. Don't read about Texas, folks. But if you're going to read about Texas, you probably want to go to more of the forum-based like news, which sucks because I'm not going to recommend people go to Reddit, but Reddit is the most like, well, no one's really constrained by anything at all. So you're going to get people's actual thoughts and opinions versus anything that's influenced. Well, besides by what they decide to be influenced by. But I don't know, like, on one note, lots of lawmakers and congress people and governors are saying, like, what are you doing, like, to make sure that students aren't being like targeted for being Jewish? And it's like, oh, that's not the problem. People lost their jobs for saying that's not the current problem, even though that's what's being construed, or at least displayed in the media, that that is the problem. So then saying that's not the problem means that you're anti-Jewish and you have to now leave. I think 3 people lost their jobs for that. And it's like, I'd probably lose my job for that too. Because you gotta really speak to what people are hearing in the media versus what you are seeing from the inside, because it's just tough to just tell people there's more nuance in the situation than just this is anti-Islam or anti-Jewish or anti whatever else it is. It's really tough. Actually, I think the biggest problem with student activism and protesting on campuses, it kind of defeats this. This gets too. It kind of defeats the purpose of protest, to coordinate with the people you're protesting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's the problem of the right to protest should be coordinated, because then it can mitigate it, that it's not going to be violent in any way. You can ensure to police that everything is going to be above board, everything's going to be like within the rights that we have. And by not communicating that, police have to be on guard, and that's when tensions rise. That's when people have to be on their, like, they have to be on their guard, and that's not a great environment to protest. But on the other hand, if I was protesting the police, I'm gonna be like, hey, I have a police protest. Can you make sure that everything's safe there? It's like, as a protester, if I don't trust you to make everything safe there, why would I ask you to be there?
Yeah.
Like, that's, and I don't know, like, BLM protests are the best example. When campuses had those, it's like, I don't want the police there. I don't want the police involved, and I don't want them to know all the nuance of this, because they're the people we're protesting right now. And that's a really tough pickle. And that's usually when protests get out of hand, because yeah, you actually probably do need to coordinate all of those things. but it does defeat the purpose of it. But you still have to.
Yeah, maybe this is my radical brain thinking.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's in that situation, like if you are, it's specifically in that scenario where
Yeah.
you want to organize a protest to protest police, etc. But like to do it lawfully, you're supposed to work with police.
Mm-hmm.
It's like at that point, what's the point of the protest and why should we not just rebel? And I don't
Yeah.
want to say like civil war too. Um Again, that's radical. That's radical. I'm not saying that.
Cut his
But
line. Cut his line.
no, but like what I'm saying is like there's going to, because of how quickly we are developing, the newer generations are developing their perspectives and their thoughts and their ideas at a much more rapid rate than the older generation can understand or get with. And so there is a disconnect from an older generation to a younger generation with just how things should be ran as a human species that have some sort of society created. Now specifically thinking of the United States, there is issues of inequity, inequality, whatever, that have been voiced, and some people agree, typically the younger individuals, and some people disagree, typically the older individuals. And again, I'm not saying that this is where I think it needs to go, but I could see a world in the future, sometime soon being I don't know how many years that is, but sometime soon in the future where there is some sort of outbreak of some sort of new war. And I know there's wars going on overseas. I'm talking about like in our country. I could see it happening. I don't think, if I were a betting man, I wouldn't bet money on it. But if it were to happen, I could be like, well, look at the system that we have right now. It's very not great for a lot of people. And so, like, I could see that. But then also, again, going very, like, I'm catastrophizing now, but like thinking about all of the things overseas that is happening, whether it's Israel, Palestine, whether it's Ukraine, Russia, whether it's whatever, there is still like in a somewhat modern era of humans existing, there is still conflict that we feel like we need to solve with violence. And it's unfortunate that we're still there as a species, but we're going to be there until we transcend into something higher, which won't happen probably in our lifetimes anywhere close. And so we're still a species that says, I don't agree with what you're saying, and so I'm going to fight you. And that's just animalistic instinct hopping into play. And so I could also see a world where, because of how we have treaties and allies and et cetera, I wouldn't put money on World War III, but I could also see that happening too.
But I could see Civil War II, Captain Strikes Back. Iron Man
So
came back and he wasn't happy.
exactly.
This is
But
all in Minecraft.
yeah, yes, yeah. I don't see it happening in real life, just in a virtual reality. But no,
Yeah.
like I don't know. I've had these thoughts for a while where, like, again, like I don't think, I said I don't think it's gonna get there. But again, if it does, I wouldn't be like, oh, how did this happen? Because there's so many different groups of people who are individually almost saying the same thing. Like, there is issues that we need to address. Why are we not addressing these issues?
Yeah.
And if we, at some point, we being the groups of individuals who are trying to make change, if they all eventually look at each other and like, wow, if we all got together and tried to make this change together, what could we do? And that's what I like. Eventually, if there was just a more coordination across several channels of communication, things would either start to actually change, or we would see a lot of change into how our daily life works. But I'm gonna leave that there.
This is why Zen Buddhism is the way. So if you no, just kidding. I'm not a practitioner, so I am not even qualified enough to tell people why they should be Buddhist.
Very
But
good.
also peace, dude. Peace and love, man. I am I people have been clamoring on whether or not there would be a World War III or a Civil War II, which honestly, if there was a second Civil War, I genuinely don't know how we would have to label it as historians. Like if there are enough meme historians that are out there, please Civil War II Electric Boogaloo. Please. I just want to see it. I just want it to be the official name and we move on and that's it. But there are a lot of different groups, and people do have a lot of fears about there being a large scale war eventually one day because of all the different groups and all the different opinions and everyone wanting change, but no one being patient enough to have the conversations for the change. But a part of me weirdly feels like when it comes to the in only America, I do not know the nuance of any other countries right now in my life, not well enough to speak on their political everything. Um, but America, I have this weird feeling that no matter like until something big happens, we are all too self-preserving to start something like that now. Because back in the Civil War, the value of human life was not as high as it is now.
Yeah, yeah,
And especially self-preservation of human life
yeah. Mm-hmm.
was not as high. And now that we've really gotten to the point of where we are, I don't know, there's too much entertainment and to like that's because there are people who are like, yeah, I want to make sure that blank, I will not insert whatever it is. What but thing is happening, I don't want that anymore. And I own blank to take care of it. And then they'll say, but I really don't want to miss I Am Legend 2.
Yeah, if only yeah, it's a younger generation. They don't want to work nowadays.
Yeah, if only I could make them work. But I also really want to make sure that I see the second Mario movie because that first one kind of slapped, and I want to see what they can do with it.
I heard Chris Pratt's gonna have a voice for the second one actually, rather than just talking. No.
Yeah, I heard he's gonna do an accent this time.
Yeah, Yahoo. But I don't know. I I will say, with even in my everything that we do is not actually changing anything mind, because it's
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be cynical, but there are things in existence that I am cynical towards just because of how things have played out. But I will say, um kind of talking about the same things that we're talking about, but shifting in more into just student voice in general.
Yeah,
Like and I feel like we're getting to a point where people are starting to understand this more. But like the student voice is the most powerful voice on any college campus.
absolutely.
Like because of all of the politics that like entry, mid, high level professionals have to go through to make any sort of change. Um, like if I were to say something, but then a group of students started saying the same thing, well, if I said it, it wouldn't be heard from, let's just say, like the president. But if the
Mm-hmm.
students started saying it, the president would be like, "Oh, I have to do something about it because they're talking about this change that needs to take place." And so, like again, I think there are there are college campuses across the country that understand this, and the students can know how to rally and get together and coordinate and make things actually like move forward in a positive direction. But the
Yeah,
majority of college campuses, I feel like any sort of major change that students want to see just fizzles out because they don't understand that if they just got enough of them together that have the same ideas and mission, that things would actually change. Because at a
Well,
small scale, it like it doesn't. If two people say, "Hey, I need this to happen," they ask like a professor, they ask a hall director to like, "Hey, can this happen?" And then they get stopped there and they say, "Ah, well, nothing's going to change then." But if 200 of them were to come into my building and say, "This is what I need to change," I'd have to listen to that kind of thing.
I
So,
I mean, we've seen a lot of that recently, actually, this last year. Where there were just many different things that students want to change. Honestly, some of them are not worth going in the weeds to because they're just I don't want to draw more attention to them anymore because they've changed and we've moved on and we did the thing we were supposed to do. Great. But there was like things like there was a student who in a student government meeting decided, you know what, I want to write a bill that says that residential life has to update their outdoor furniture. And it's like one, for those who don't know, residential life is an auxiliary, so therefore student government does not govern over residential life. Just as a blanket statement, that is the way it works. And two, if you just emailed our director, we'd have a conversation. But I had never seen like the inside portions and how those conversations happen. Anytime a student in any public way makes a complaint or a request of residential life or really of any department, within the week, it seems like that student has a meeting with the head of that department, here at least. I know
mm-hmm.
other big institutions, they have a little more wiggle room because they don't have to, they care about the individual student, but they don't have to focus on the individual student as much because they're a giant institution. They can't meet with every single student who doesn't like the configuration of their room. But we have so many students who just have loud voices, and that's good. I appreciate that. I'd prefer they did because I'd prefer that over a lot of people being not happy with it and then posting on some forum, yep, 4His sucks because this is what happened and nothing ever changed, even though they never said anything. But now students, they make change more than anyone else. I've had many things that I want to change, and few of them have happened here and there. But if a student is really, really advocating for something, that's usually when something gets done. And I don't think enough students know that, which is probably a product by design. Because if every single student's thing that they're passionate about had to be heard and addressed, then we'd probably have to make like 5 positions just based on student requests.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find it I don't know, interesting, disheartening that at the end of the day, like every system, everything that we have in place is you can relate it back to just like how business works. Everything's a
Yeah.
business because until it doesn't, money makes the world go around kind of thing.
Yeah.
Uh and higher ed, I feel like is such a business at this point. And like you've brought it up in this podcast alone where it's you you need students for that income. If you don't have students, you don't have that income, your campus
Yep.
fails. And
And
like
the moment you start treating students like dollars, then they're gonna feel like dollars.
and it's so unfortunate. But on the flip side, if students were like, wait, I am just a number in this ledger, they need to listen to me or their ledger is going to get lower, like smaller or whatever. That bottom
Mm-hmm.
line, that bottom dollar is going to decrease. And yes, it sucks that like, yes, all you are basically at the end of the day for like foreign enrollment specialist, whatever, how those positions are called, all you are is more money in the pocket of the university. Like yes, they want you to succeed, but they want you to succeed so that you give us more money throughout the 4 years that you're here. They don't want you to succeed to educate yourself. They want the money so the campus can keep going. Now, there are people obviously in the jobs, in the positions because they want to see people succeed and educate themselves and grow as people and develop other people, yada, yada, yada. Yes. But at the end of the day, the way everything is functioning is we need money, you are money. Now, if students saw that as a positive and not a negative, because it's seeing that as a negative, like, oh, if I'm just a dollar, they don't care about me, I don't want to be here, and they just leave. But if they saw it as like I'm just a dollar, they don't want me here, but if I'm not here, they lose money. I'm going to make the change that I want, so I have a positive experience. Then that changes the whole ball game. So like I have in my notes for this podcast that higher ed is a business. Hit them where it hurts, because like, do you should like
It's
I am all for, like, and I'm gonna say this, and like I think this is known from my coworkers and my department. I hate charging people for damages, for break housing, for all this stuff that we charge residents. We're already charging them to live on campus. It's already so hard. The fact, okay, now I'm gonna go crazy. And then I'm not gonna go too crazy because I have a closing little conversation I want to have too.
yeah.
But the fact that it's so difficult, and there's so many entries to the barriers to entry, so many barriers to entry, it's so difficult for anyone to basically continue their education past high school, and even through high school can be difficult too, depending on where you're growing up, the resource that you have. But speaking of higher ed, since we are working in higher ed, it's so difficult for the generic, typical, average US citizen to go to college and continue their education and find success without putting themselves in some sort of debt. You know, I don't know what the statistics are, but there's so many people in college debt, whether they have a college degree or not, they have college debt because it's so expensive for us to just as humans educate more so we can develop and make existing better for everyone. That's crazy to me. Why like we have like why does it have to be so expensive? Because at the end of the day, shouldn't humans just want humans to succeed? Don't we want our species to just keep growing? And doesn't growth come from education? But don't cut me off here, Nathan. I see you. But I understand. So without getting into that soapbox, littler thing is I don't like having to charge for more things than we don't already have to. It's already so expensive to live on a college campus for people. It's already so expensive each semester, each year, whatever. It's already so expensive. It's already so expensive to go to school. Tuition, crazy. If why do we have to charge for break? Let them live on campus if they need to. Why do we have to charge for minor damages, a minor paint scratch? Why? It just happens sometimes. Just let it be. Just let them they already. I did some math for the break housing specifically. If you just made everyone, if you want to still charge people, at least where I am, if you just made it so every person that lives on campus spends $8 more each semester, break housing could be free. Just with averages of people who stay on campus, like at most break times. I did the math my first year because I had the time. But
I was
yeah,
gonna
you go
say
for it.
I was just gonna say our break housing is free.
Yeah, and that's awesome.
Like that was really just the thing. Like you were saying that, and like it does actually make sense that other places charge for break housing. But I'm not gonna sit here and like absolutely say that Fort Hays is the best university in the world. Maybe it is. I don't know. But what I am gonna say is for how much it's a business and how much we have to charge people for like chips and things like that, we are still the most affordable uh, state institution in Kansas, at least. We might actually be the most affordable state institution in general, um, because just simply our our mission has always been from it, our literal tagline used to be affordable success, and
Okay.
we were the cheapest. We were the cheapest, and we
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that we were accessible. And
Yeah.
then we moved to forward thinking, world ready, because making it sound like, hey, you want to succeed in the dollar store maybe isn't the best way to advertise yourself. Because we used to be called the dollar store of public institutions. But now, even when we have to increase our tuition or we have to increase fees and things like that, we're when we increase, we have to display it basically as a percentage. And when we say we're going to increase by 10% and all the institutions around us are increasing by 3, the dollar amount is still lower. And that's bananas. Because, and I think our vice president did the math. If we increase by 10%, every single year for the next 10 years, we would still be the cheapest institution in Kansas, barring that some go lower or others do some crazy stuff, or if you include ones that are basically free. But that's different. That's usually a different situation. But we are
Yeah.
still that cheap and we are that accessible. And students still complain about the price.
And not to get into that, but yeah, I was gonna say at the end of the day, like regardless of how anyone has it, people just find things and they will
there's
find
always
the
things to
things.
complain
And there
about.
always is things to complain about. But I think at least on my end, I've said enough because I don't want to get too much into it.
That's fair. I want to touch one more thing
For sure, you go
is
for it.
how much is you guys' parking?
Our parking?
Yep. How much does it cost for a student pass to park?
Because I pay too, and I'm trying to remember what I pay. It just gets taken out of my paycheck. But
Fair. Can you give me a ballpark?
I think it's like 125 for the year.
$13.
Yeah,
It cost us $13. And this year we wanted to increase it by $2. And there was a huge stink about it from lots of different students. And we ended up not. But now we're also running into the situation where now, because of that, we don't have the funding to effectively repaint all of our spots to park. And we use the numbers of other Regent institutions. We use the number of other institutions in general and showed even similar universities cost $50 to $100 for parking passes. It doesn't matter. Any increase is just a big no. And I get it, because just because other places are worse doesn't mean that we can just be a little worse. Why don't we just keep it good? But that's the problem of it being business, because there's still so many costs of upkeep and maintenance. And there are also people who just want to profit. And it's a hard balance that it takes people who are in very different fields than any of us to figure out how to display that in a way that still sounds equitable.
Yeah.
But no, the higher up I go, the more I'm like, dude, I am not the guy who needs to talk to people about anything financial. I don't want a director job. I don't want to work with a budget that matters. I work with our student activities accounts budgets, and they do matter, but they matter in a way that has a lot less consequences if you mess it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was all I had to say about it.
For sure. So I dropped my pen. I want to end on a lighter note. But the lighter note has two parts. So I want you to pick one or two.
Two.
All right, we're gonna start with some higher education hot takes. Maybe it's not lighter. I have one that I want to talk about that I think is a really hot take, which is wild. And then if you have any hot takes that you have or questions for me or whatever, thoughts on the one that I have, feel free. But I don't think hall directors should be on call. Okay. I think it doesn't make sense in a lot of areas. Hall directors aren't trained and equipped enough, like police are, to handle like major community disruptions, like people getting physically like all physical altercations, alcohol, drugs, whatever. Like, yes, I can manage, but I'm not a trained professional to handle those kind of situations. Similarly, I'm not a trained mental health practitioner. I'm not a counselor. And so, like, if people are having situations that they need assistance in that realm with like their mental health, like an RA could call me as a hall director on call, and I could come and talk and refer to resources, because that's all I can do is refer. I can't assist. And so what's really the point of another person knowing that someone else is going through a mental health crisis? Like,
actually, I do know the answer to that question.
Yeah, and so fair enough. We will get there, but I just think like there could be counselors that you call rather than the hall director on call. Like we have on call counselors that like our process is, if there's a mental health situation, RA calls hall director comes, hall director will get on call counselor, probably. And so like, but also not to be like cut the middleman out, just get the counselor out there. I don't need to be there because I'm not trained to help with that. Like, yeah, like if I have a relationship with someone, I'm really good at like being an empath. But if we have no relationship, it's hard for me as an individual, and for lack of a better phrasing, to really care in that moment. Like, and they don't need me there. It would just not help. And so, and then the third bullet point I have on this hot take on my notes is at the end of the day, if RAs are on call, they have a situation that happens, a resident comes to them after hours, whatever, with an issue. There's two things an RA could do if hall directors were not on call. Two things. They could one, refer back to their training and figure out how to mitigate the issue for the night, and or just say you could talk to the hall director tomorrow morning. And the resident might not really like that in the moment, but there are minimal situations that are emergencies. I can handle it the next day.
The only thing I have to say on that, this is not my opinion. Well, correction, this is my opinion of how the reasoning of it. And this is my opinion of it based on when I was an RA, not as a mid-level professional. As an RA, I felt like the reason that professional staff were on call was so a real adult could handle something if needed. Because if it's a problem that is small, then anyone can handle it. It's just that the person who's emotional in the situation or the person who's whatever in the situation isn't clear headed enough to. That's what the RA on call is for. But if it was big enough that it was like a real, like life threatening thing, mostly just a real life threatening thing or a thing you didn't know the answer to, then you call someone who just has so much more experience than you, who is old enough maybe to have at least done the research on what a mortgage is. And then, yeah, call them because they one time got into a car accident and now they feel older.
I don't want to like take away any like student staff's like security blanket of like, if I feel uncomfortable in a situation, I can call someone above me to help.
Yeah.
Cause like I don't want that to be taken away at the end of the day. Like if we're really getting radical, I don't even think we really need to have RAs on call. But like, I don't know, man.
I mean, when you live off campus, you don't have an on call.
There's a and there that's your go. That's a hot take. No, which is the segment. But I don't know. That was my thoughts. Do you have any hot takes of your own?
Yeah, I do actually.
Yeah, go for
I
it.
believe that all public institutions should be nonprofit.
Okay.
I've always thought that. I think that education as a whole is a servant role. It has never once in the entirety of education been a non-servant role. The only people who don't really feel like servant like roles in higher education anymore are faculty, and I think that that's a mistake. We are here to serve students and to get them to a place where they are a better version of themselves than when they came in. That does not sound like something you should be profiting off of. You are only here to better individuals. So why is it for profit in any way, shape, or form? If it was nonprofit also, we would have way less budget issues than we do. And we would have a lot less requirements when it comes to a lot of the random stuff we have to do if we were nonprofit. Now, there had obviously been different hoops to loop in or jump through, and there's lots of different like struggles and challenges that come with that. But overall, I just think it should be not charity, but kind of charity. Because charity work is still work that you get paid for. It's just nonprofit for the entire organization. I don't believe that that's necessary in any way, shape, or form.
That's a hot take, and it's one that I could get behind. Being honest.
I also have not done enough research to tell me why I can't do that.
And everything's yes until you're told no, you know? No.
Exactly.
Ask for forgiveness and not what's the one? Permission.
Yep.
Ask for
I
forgiveness,
also
not
delayed
permission.
my restart by 5 minutes.
All right,
So,
perfect. Which gives me just enough time for this last closing game that I have or
yep,
question for you.
sure.
Um, what universe do you think would be the most interesting to work in higher education in? If you need me to give you an example, I have one, but then you can't use
Mm,
that as yours.
no, you
Okay.
don't need to give me an example.
Okay.
Shoot, man. There's a lot of interesting ones. I'm trying to think of one that's like fun and not dangerous.
Yeah.
Um, you know how there's Pokemon School?
Okay. Yeah.
I think having a Pokemon collegiate system would be very interesting because there's Pokemon biology, there's Pokemon battling, there's breeding, there's lots of different branches of that. Even just displayed in the what's in Pokemon right now, I do believe that there is enough within Pokemon that there could be a higher education system.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's too simplistic right now.
Yeah, that you took that a way different route in my brain than I did when I was like
Okay.
developing this. So my first thought was like the Harry Potter universe would be
Yeah,
really
that was my
interesting.
first thought too.
Yeah. But also, if we're just going off of like what's currently the lore, there isn't higher education in the Harry Potter universe. They
Yeah.
have their high school equivalent and then they go to their jobs. And so that would be why one, that was my first thought of why it could be interesting because I wouldn't have a job in that
Yeah.
universe. Two, spells? Question mark. I don't know. They cast them. That'd be crazy.
Well,
Um,
yeah, because you have to like at some well, hold on. There is higher education in the Harry Potter universe,
what do you mean though? What is there?
but it's just not wizard based.
What is it?
They have colleges.
Well,
Like it's the real world.
you know, I mean the wizarding world.
Well, I'm just saying. Well, you can be in the wizarding world, but you can just be a not to
Okay,
say
yeah, just a muggle. Okay.
I wasn't gonna use the M word.
Hell no. But no, I think it'd be funny to try to like if there was some sort of higher education and there were spells that could be cast, like it'd be interesting. I don't know if you saw my cat in the background
I
right there.
did. I'm having a good time. See, I get little snippets.
Yeah, she's just hanging out. But so spells would be interesting. Like, say you were in conduct and they didn't like you. Oh, that'd be go crazy. Expelliarmus right to my face. So
That I mean, that's the same as concealed carry, right?
okay, well, chill. And then the last the last the last the last point that I had of why it could be interesting is because so there's houses, you know, in Harry Potter, but
Yeah,
it feels like segregation to me. And it would be a weird thing to have to navigate like segregated groups of people.
that's really true, actually, though, because you are by default like boxing people. Like, is that just their? It's not their major. You're basing it off of like their personalities.
And like, yes, they do take classes with people in other houses, but like at the end of the day, the majority of your time is spent with people just in your house.
Are
Which also,
LLCs Hogwarts houses?
but no, because like think about it, you could make that comparison because you because houses are yeah, their personality and their characteristics and their traits, you're not learning anything from other people. You're not developing. You're just at an 11-year-old, you are told this
Mhm.
is what you are brave. So now you're Gryffindor. And so now you're just going to be around people who think and feel the same way as you with well for the most part. And you're not going to have any character development. And so maybe that could be an interesting thing to try to be like a higher ed professional like all right, you need to develop as a person, but I'm not going to get into that because we've already gotten into so much and
That's fair. We could do this all day.
it's almost time. But as always, in summary, um, what have we talked about? A lot of things, but in summary, I would say if you really want change to take place, you need to actively make some sort of decision to start taking steps to make that change actually occur. Um, whether it's small scale, large scale, whatever, like there needs to be action to put forth, or nothing is going to change in the way you want it to change. And that's been the UMR podcast. I've been Dallas Lansanese.
I've been Nathan Dozier.
And we hope that you have a fantastic rest of your day.